So after all of your efforts and hopefully successful results, it's time to liquidate your company. However, the hard work isn't over, as there's lots of important factors which you need to consider when winding up your company. The first of these is selling your stock, if you have any left, of course. This is important because once a company is dissolved, its assets are automatically owned by the Crown. As well as thinking about the price you want to sell it for, you should also consider the associated costs of selling. These might include the cost of transporting the goods, assessing their value, and considering what price to sell them at. For example, considering if certain discounts, such as buy one get one free, would be appropriate. You might also want to consider holding a board meeting to agree how much assets should be sold for and what mode of transport you think is best to use to get the sold goods from the company premises to the buyer. You could then use money raised to pay back your shareholders, if you have any. Secondly, you'll want to think about winding up your company. There's a formal process which needs to be followed for solvent companies, which we hope will apply to all of you. Solvent simply means that the company's assets outweigh their liabilities. In other words, to be solvent, the value of everything the company owns, like furniture for example, is more than the money that it owes to other people. The government website is very useful for this and provides Scotland-specific guidance too, which is important as there are differences between companies registered in Scotland and England. Now, when it comes to what you want to do with the profits, don't get too excited and remember that the taxman always comes first in the commercial world. Although you're not likely to be liable for tax here, it's a useful exercise to consider what taxes you might be due to pay in real life. Not paying the appropriate taxes can have very serious ramifications, so it's something every business must consider. And this is where accountants and tax advisors come in.
Next, you need to think about the formal process required under the Companies Act for winding up your company. You can't just decide it's over, sell your stock and call it a day. You'll need to hold an annual general meeting or AGM for which there are various formal requirements. You'll need to do your research into this, but some considerations to include will be the timing. So when do you want to hold your AGM? And how much notice you need to give to the shareholders. You'll need to give everyone entitled to receive notice plenty of advance warning. For private companies, for example, this is 14 days. And you'll also need to think about the form in which you give notice. You could give notice by sending out a hard copy by post, or an electronic copy, or publishing information on your website, or you could do a combination of all of the above. It is important, however, to check what means of communication those you need to give notice to have agreed to in your Articles of Association. Lots of bits of information will need to be included in notice, for example, the purpose of the meeting and its time and place. Another important consideration will be who is entitled to receive notice. This would include shareholders and directors. You need to make sure that everyone entitled to be there is invited to avoid winding anyone up. At the meeting, a quorum must be present for what you decide at the meeting to be valid. A quorum simply means the minimum number of individuals who must be at the meeting. Unless your articles say otherwise, or if you run a single member company, this is usually 2 people, but you'll need to check your articles to make sure. A good starting point for finding all the information is the company's Articles of Association. You can then do some research into the Companies Act 2006. At your annual general meeting, you'll need to pass a special resolution for voluntary winding up. This is just a resolution passed by the majority of shareholders, which combined to hold over 75% of the value of the shares, to say that they agree to the winding up of the company. Going back to the requirements which are outlined on the government website, there are various formalities such as advertising the resolution in the Gazette within 14 days and sending a declaration to the accountant in bankruptcy. You should investigate these and make sure you're wary of the deadlines. Before you start dividing up the profits, remember you need to pay back your shareholders first of all. After that, you can decide what to do with the rest of the profits. Will they be kept by the students, donated or reinvested? There are restrictions on this, so you should pay attention to the Young Enterprise guidance provided, as there are requirements on how you give money to charity if that's what you plan to do.